Hello. Welcome to Outlaw Redemption the Podcast,
Yes.
a Western folk rock opera.
Yes.
I'm Bill Wardlow, your host.
Hey, Bill.
With me is Ronald Allen Cordy, better known as RPG himself.
How you doing today, Bill?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty excited about doing this story that we're doing, man. We're getting to some interesting places here,
Yeah.
aren't
So we just lost our hero.
we? Yeah, it's like, wait, the story's over.
Yeah.
It's like, but no, I think we missed our focus. He wasn't the focus. He was just a part of the story. So it leaves us in a pretty precarious place. Now we've got this poor Mary Elizabeth, his wife's left alive, no longer a husband that can provide, and a young child, a boy.
In the 1800s.
In the 1800s, it's stuck in a western town. It's not just your husband was an outlaw. He worked for the town baron, the same guy that owns all the bars, the livery, the whole 9 yards, the whole town. And she has no place to go. The house that was provided, now it's not, because she don't have no rent and no food to feed her kids. So poor Mary Elizabeth ends up decides that she has to work for the baron in the bars. And she becomes, house entertainment, if you will. So that's how she decided to feed her kid, which meant in her room that she had, that her and her boy stayed in, that every time she had to work, if you will, the boy had to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And many a nights find himself sleeping out in the livery barn that was also owned by the same guy. And a couple things developed in that scenario. You got to, first of all, doing this to survive. And we already know the woman's tattered and torn because she'd already lost a child, their dream farm. Now she just watched her husband get hanged. So that's a very tough place to be. And now she's having to sell herself and work for somebody just to be able to have a place to stay and food to feed her kid. But also, she started drinking laudanum, which was a big deal. I mean, people think that that was one of the biggest epidemics we had after the Civil War, was actually from people that went through stuff in the Civil War, laudanum, which was heroin and alcohol. Or actually morphine
and alcohol.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, but it's the same to me. And then, of course, alcohol. Trying to forget pains and trying to endure hardship and turn into basically heroin and alcohol. It's a story I see today. I mean, I wrote this song from the perspective of exactly what I've seen in my times on this world and working in the street ministry and stuff. I've seen women that were prostitute that had kids that were being neglected, that were just trying to get by, but their only way to get by was selling themselves. And it's like a snake that ate its tail, or it's the chicken or the egg, which came first. But I mean, it doesn't matter what I said before. However, wherever you're at, that's where you are. At some point, none of that other stuff matters. Where you are at is what matters, and and you can move forward from there, or you can digress. It's cool you learn. It's cool to have a place where you see you're going, but you better know exactly where you're at. And that's I've seen this in my time. So that's why the part of this song I wanted to address in this story. But so we got this eventually too much laudanum, too much alcohol, and our poor mentally ill wife of Obadiah Hardman finds herself in death. I had a vision. I told these guys when we were making this song, this is kind of cool. I said I had this vision in my head that the song's playing. It's a waltz, by the way, kind of. It's a 3/4 time kind of thing, and or whatever, 6/8 or whatever it may be. I'm not sure. I just know it's 1 2 3 1 2 3
right,
kind of thing, and so it leads to. So I see her like dancing across the floor, around the floor, with like some old prospector looking old dude with, missing the teeth and all kind of things, going around in a circle looking, and she's just drunk and being swinging her head. So they're spinning to this waltz going in a circle, and every time you see them dancing, but every time they come around and you see the mirror on the back of the bar, when the cowboy's face or the prospector's face comes around, you see it's death. That was the vision I had in my head for the scene in the movie. Like, that's how we got to film this scene, that she's dancing around and, the room's spinning and all that. But every once in a while you see this face that's death, that's actually the cowboy dancing with her. Because that's my vision of this scene. But then you got this boy who's outside of this and still trying to get along. But so he finds himself staying in livery, which was run by some old dude that was running the livery. And so he'd let him stay in the tack room and keep him warm up by fire, and but he'd have to muck out stalls and the like. And then sadly, that's our poor Mary Elizabeth meets her end and overdoses and dies and leaves him abandoned. But fortunately, the old man in the barns looked out after him and let him stay there, and he worked in the stables. And everyone knew, but that was the horse kid, Daddy was an outlaw and Mama was a whore kind of thing,
Right.
And that's, but he's all right and we'll let him stay there, and he did stay in the, so he got to stay in the barn, and the old man kind of took care of him, let him, and he grew up and that's where we find ourselves there, having to live in a barn because your mother died from an overdose. Luckily being looked out after somebody that was cared enough to take a stray in.
Yeah.
But have to earn your way as a young child and seen a lot of the world, I see that in kids all the time today, I'm in a second generation and even a third. I'm seeing a third generation of people from the streets and, working in the street ministry up there and stuff. And that's my greatest hope. I hope this album sells so much that we can build a new ministry. That's what I really want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just a better building and a better location. Because people are down, man, and that's the whole thing. The world is hard.
Yeah.
And some people make
seems to be getting harder.
It does. And some people make it easier than others, but I mean, at some point, man, we know there is nobody that doesn't know somebody if they aren't in these situations. Everyone knows someone in that. Someone they didn't think would ever be there.
Right.
And we say, oh, what a shame. But how many times until we go, and then we think they failed or they were weak or something. But how many times do we go, wait, man, there might be a bigger problem, and we may need to have a little bit more grace because it could be us. I mean, it happened to me. Luckily, I found some redemption. Probably another reason I wrote this, But I wanted people to have the same thing and a chance out, and because poor Mary Elizabeth didn't. And I know a lot of Mary Elizabeths. That's the sad thing, man. I've seen so many kids, so many young people that died overdose. Did heroin when the heroin was really hitting hard in our little town, man. It was crazy. I mean, we're a little town.
Yeah.
Wilmington's a small little city.
It's sad when that sort of thing comes to suburbia. I didn't expect it.
No, and it's
and it come out here and just tore through my little town. And
it's crazy. I mean, because and I'm just going to be straight honest. I mean, there are people's actions. I want to shake them for doing it. But on the other hand, I feel so bad because they know they're going to screw up, and they do it anyway, and they barely make it, and then they end up dead. It's like, oh, they really learn, It's like, what are you going to do? They're dead. What else? You can't extract any more out of them. They lost everything.
Yeah.
We pound on them because they're horrible, and then they die. And you're like, wow, man. It's like it's so sad to me. It hurts to see that happen, man. To see it happen to people and know that they just couldn't keep themselves. Ain't no little kid ever grew up. Never little kid was ever born and said, "Man, I'd like to grow up and be a baseball player. Oh, I'd like to be a basketball player. I'd like to be a policeman. I'd like to be a drug addict, die on a bench." No one said that.
Right.
They said all the time, "I want to be a cowboy. I'd like to I'd like to be an astronaut. That's cool. I'd like to die out. I'd like to die lonely and depressed and hating everything and scared of everything and emaciated and everything. That's what I'd like to do. I can't wait. No one ever said that, man. And it's somebody's kid, man, no matter what. And that's what the story is. That's where we're at. So that's why I wrote this, and put this in the story. Because this kid has to work out of this. Now there's a kid left. And that's where we're going to be. So it's a transition. You're here, and then you're stuck in a situation, but it's horrible, but yet it has to go on, or it totally ends. And sometimes it all totally ends. The kid don't make it, or the mother. But in this particular case, we only lose one of them.
Yeah.
It's a haunting song. It's supposed to be haunting.
It is haunting.
Yeah.
And it's our introduction to the mandolin.
Yes, Mike Moeller.
Yeah.
Mike Moeller came. So Mike came and did bang-up banjo and mandolin work, and it's really cool. So we start off, it's so funny because, not funny, yeah, it is funny, but in its own way. The Victrola music and the narration, it feels like you're at, it feels like a scene from The Godfather when they're at the wake or whatever. I mean, it's a
really
funeral.
Does. It's very sad.
Yeah, and I mean, it's perfect how we painted that. I mean, these were intentional things that we were doing, man, and it's supposed to sound like some old world, you know.
And it really worked out.
It did. That was tremendous. And then we turn around.
Sarah on the violin on that, and Mike on the
and it's this little thing that worked out. Sound like some
mando.
Old world funeral back in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And with its European influence to it, you know. So I dug that, and that was really sweet. And then, so the next thing we wanted to do when we wrote the other song, and I remember describing this very much to Jake and Tucker, again, separately, without either knowing what the other did. I said, you guys, I want you to play your parts like your spirits. I need
ethereal.
Yeah,
I remember hearing the word ethereal.
Yeah, very much. I said, you guys are the spirit of whiskey and laudanum. You know, she's taking a dance, a waltz, and that's what the mandolin's giving us, a nice little waltz going along, and the plink, 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 and the little tempo and all that. And that's that dance with death. And at the same time, you got these two ethereal sounds going around, and they sound like, I got my hands going right now if you didn't know. But they're doing like the spirit of whiskey and laudanum in a dance with death. That was the whole idea behind that whole thing. And man, and these guys took to what I said, and they just, woo. If you really listen to this, is a lot of it.
There's something I just love about the way this come out is that straight, clean mandolin,
dude,
right down the middle, holding everything down, and then that guitar and lap steel just
everywhere.
It just soaked in reverb, and
it's almost like they were the oil and the lava lamp
nice.
thing, man. They were like a lava lamp going off together. They were both like bubbling together, but separate, two distinct spirits, but floating around in the same spot. And I really
remember
thought
when we
that
got this together, pulling up all the.
You're
all
like,
the
we're not touching this again.
Yeah. Yeah, I had kind of mixed this song as we went along, which I did everything, but most of it I had done away with all the mixing and had started anew when we mixed it. This song, I mixed as I went. That's the mix you hear. It was too good to touch.
It came out really sweet. And I mean, it's like really when everyone comes to the same idea of what you're doing and what you're trying to go after. Like I said, they all and one thing I'm pretty good is trying to give analogies or give ideas like that visually. I'm a very visual kind of guy. Movies in my head. So when you can say something, what you see again, and you got musicians that can take what you're saying and turn that music into those words or that paint that picture with what they're doing, or at least, it's almost like telling them they're a certain color on the palette and you need this color here and there. And they decide to do that. That stuff's to me, it's just amazing how cool that is. And when they really get it and something like that comes out, I just...
and I think this was another one where we just pulled up the 2 takes that we liked and...
Yeah, we took 2 takes.
Pulled we had up one the faders and it just worked.
It just worked. And like I said, those 2 guys, they did heard the same instruction with the same music, and their interpretations come out, and they're so much the same, but different.
Yeah.
So that they could become partners rather than like stepping on each other.
Right.
They become 2 entities that were intertwined together to make this whole, this thing was just eerily haunting is underneath all of it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, they did. They made the dance, which was the waltz with the mandolin, the clean dink, chink, chink. That could have been, and they made it a dance with death, which is exactly what that song's about.
Which I think the mando was added later. I think we got both of those guitars.
Yeah, it was always supposed to be
mando,
ether.
The mando was added later, and
well, the cool thing is actually the mando is playing basically. I'm playing that waltz part on the guitar also. So we got, and everything we do, I'm playing, you got me playing acoustic along with it, trying to add. So there's a lot of good times that I work with the banjo and times that I work with the mando, and we're doing a bunch of the same things in the same realm, different voices doing the same. I think that's kind of cool. Instead of sharing space with a different voice, almost like harmonies, but not necessarily different pitches, it's different voices.
Right.
And it's musically, and I think in this album, because of the way we did it, I'm not saying maybe it works in everything for everybody, but I think it was really tastefully done in this album with us for so much, because we know we were being obscene. We know we were putting just everything indulgent. I love it. We were indulgent, but I mean, these are all my friends, and I wanted to get them on there, and I want to give them not just one little spot, one little cameo. Let's. I mean, you're here on this. Let's put you in 4 or 5. We got 20 pieces we got to do, and this is a 20 piece,
which was a really great way to work, and we're doing a lot, of that now.
Yeah,
on the new stuff that you're working.
It's actually learning how to do multiple people on like a large number of tracks, knowing that they weren't all going to be on everything, but they weren't all going to be on different things the same either. So sometimes they were together, sometimes they weren't. But having a large amount to go, you can bring somebody and do 5 songs instead of 1.
Right.
You can get 5 pieces of work done in one day with this instrument, and you've taken something down the road and something you're working on right now. And so I really incorporated that into, right now we have 31 songs in process, and we've got one of them completed now, and we've got half of them in multiple states of secondary work. Clicks on all of them, but we're in the second layers of percussions, other instruments, and bringing people in groups, groups of songs that they're going to do depending on that instrumentation. We learned that from Outlaw Redemption.
Yeah.
And so the truth is,
it's a matter of playing the long game.
Yeah, playing the long game, exactly. I mean, and I think that we're going to be, we have we had this really aggressive plan, and it's going to be, with this podcast and some of the other things, we're going to try to put out material at least every 2 weeks for the next. We've already been at it we put the whole album out, and that took 20 weeks. And we're going to have probably this first episode out in time to get it rolling. Then we're going to probably put one. I think we're going to do these a little quicker, and then we're going to get back on to putting another piece of music out every 2 weeks if we can. And if we miss one, so what? We got 1 week that took us 3 weeks to get another song out. But until we get through this at least bunch, and honestly, I got another one down the road. I got another rock opera called Prodigal. I wrote it already. I'm going to add a little bit to it and make it a full-length process. But that's down the road, too. And I got a couple other things. The idea came up I might do something with Jimmy. that might be a pretty interesting thing. So all these are my friends in music, and I just want to do it because they're my friends and have something done with them. But it's also getting my library of music done. So I think that's pretty cool too. And I got plenty of new stuff I'm writing. It's a
lot happening.
It's a lot happening, but I mean, this project, the point being is that this project was a springboard. These things like this was a springboard to say, yes, you can do that.
Yeah.
And yes, there's efficient ways to do it.
And we learned so much from doing this project on how to do it and ways we can do it better than we done it on this project.
And we're certainly not the best
because this
ever.
was a huge project.
Very huge.
And it was a lot bigger than
and
anything
my first
I'd
project,
on.
I mean, it's like my buddy Rocky always likes to say, that's your freshman project. Nobody had a freshman project like that. Nobody does that. And I'm like...
It was pretty indulgent for a freshman project.
Man, so all full disclosure, I think that I really do think I got some pretty good songs. And I think that we get all these we're going to have this bunch we got going. The one we already got done, I'm telling you, is pure fire. And it's completely different than this. All my songs are a little bit different. They're the song. I wrote the song for the sake. I'm not trying to find a genre. I'm not trying to be anything. I'm just trying to write what I'm writing, whatever story I happen to be writing. But, yeah, man, it's, we're getting it done, man, and they're going to be good, and it's going to be because we did this, and,
this was a big help and really,
well, I always thought
helped shape the way
this
I
is
work.
Different.
It really changed the way I do things.
There's so many good people out there. Here's the thing. There's so many people that are good, man. You said something about, our buddy Noah making it, man. Preparation met opportunity, and that's a big deal.
Yeah,
you work.
He was prepared when the opportunity come around. That's
and
what
then
it
opportunity
was.
crossed.
Yeah.
And talent, but work and talent.
Yeah.
And
but you can have all the talent in the world if
there's people out there that are
put in the work and your opportunity comes around, but you've missed it.
But the other side of that is there's people that are out there putting out work and they're going after it and they're doing it and opportunity don't come around.
That happens.
There's so many people that are so good. I remember Neil Young talking about, it was on a little excerpt he did for Needle and the Damage Done. He was talking about all these great musicians that he used to know, and some of them that weren't there or that just no one would ever know, and they were better than anything that most people put out. And he said, and some of them weren't there because, they didn't make it because they were, the needle and the damage done. That was the point. But some of them were just people that that did make it, but nobody they just didn't know.
Yeah.
And they were good. They were better than anybody else, and they just didn't make it for whatever reason. And so.
Well, something I've been trying to push to all my musician friends. If you don't do it, you still don't have it.
You can't win the lottery if you don't got a ticket. First of all,
exactly.
Yeah, that's just that's old hillbilly logic.
Come up with a project, follow through with that project.
Yeah,
and that's a lot of why I started doing the studio work. Is to help. I know a lot of really great songwriters, and a lot of them would have never been able to put out a record because it's prohibitively expensive.
Bill, I wouldn't have been able to do this project without you. You believed in this. You got me going, and you get to see what's going on. But as soon as you were fully helpful no matter what. But I'm saying the minute you really caught wind of what we were doing, we made this thing happen, dude. We saw it through, and you was undaunting, and you were very cooperative about doing it. Part of it, and we've made a good partnership doing it too because we turned it into a real project.
Absolutely.
And I can't ever thank you too much for helping me make this real because I'm telling you, it's the coolest thing you ever did in my life. But it might be the coolest thing you ever get to do in your life.
I appreciate being a part of it. I'm glad we met there that day on Fountain Square.
Amen. That was pretty wild.
Yeah.
Seeing Jimmy Klepper play with See You in the Funnies, Flying Pigs, the whole 9 yards going on, big Fountain Square going. It was just a wild day.
It was a really good day.
And Jake introduced me to you.
Yeah.
Stand right there getting ready to watch the funnies.
Yeah. I had went to work that morning. And I had just decided halfway through the day that I want to go see in the funnies. They're playing on Fountain Square, so I left.
Well, what you didn't know is the Lord was saying, you need to get over there and let's get this project done. I need you. You have a job, son. Go.
Yeah, that very well may be the case.
There's been so many things that makes me think that there's some little bit of touch of help.
But again, that's why I started doing this studio work. That's why I started, I started learning to record and stuff so I could record my own bands, obviously. But I really started putting this studio together and really started working hard at this engineering
and here's the thing.
Just to give people an opportunity that would not otherwise have an opportunity to record their songs.
And I think I got some, like I said, going back to what my thing I was really trying to, the reason that we picked this aggressive project, I got some pretty good songs, but I'm not I got my skills, but when you talk about things, there's some people like my aforementioned friend, and there's some other people that I know, my Jimmy. Them guys, man, they sing and the world stops and listens because they're so good and they work hard. Don't get me wrong. Don't ever think that they don't work hard because they've made their craft.
Absolutely, they do.
But man, they got this juice, man, and it's beautiful. And like I said, but there's lots of guys that got juice that don't get the opportunity, doesn't cross, and it's like, and with so many things, there's a saturation of so many things. So everything, even if it ain't the same, it looks like the same. So it's hard to get to something that's, when there's something different hidden in there, somebody's got to find it. But sometimes there's things that are different on the outside. A Western folk rock opera. That's different on the outside.
That is different.
And I always said, if this worked out and we did this, they'd let me they'll let me do the rest of my stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll get to do the stuff I really want to do, which is the songs I wrote, which, hopefully I'm a good songwriter and people will like them. And hopefully we learn how to put them together real good and people really like them. But the thing is I already won. I wanted to record my songs.
And here you are.
And here we are.
Yeah.
And this is helping me do it. And the credibility of being able to do things has changed because I finished something. Not just that and everybody that makes music know that we just didn't finish something. We finished something that was not just small.
Yeah. And
it wasn't just a flash in the pan, and it wasn't cheap, and it wasn't, it's quality, man. It's quality work, and it's extensive work, and then we did it all together, man. And it's powerful and powerfully fun. And it's and being able to take this song and write something like this and actually capture exactly what we're doing, what we mean to part in the story. These guys being able to get and put it together is just a tremendous thing. And it's kind of cool because it's a cool little turn on this the story that we're in, where we've got this transitional period, and we have to advance this tale. And so we talk on what's important, but we move on down the line. So actually, I think from the writing standpoint, I kind of like the fact that because I have some roles here to play. I've got to bring a kid along because actually our story focus has changed now. Even at the end of this song, it's stuck. Now we are at the second generation,
right?
And Hezekiah is now
who's just lost his parent,
who's just lost his mom, had his dad hung. Had already lost his older brother.
Had watched his mom
fall
into addiction and
everything in the
prostitution.
World, except for one piece of kindness. The old man in the barn took him in and cared about him.
Right.
Showed him he mattered. When everyone else just considered him the horse kid. Yeah. But then there was one other little part. And we'll get into that, but in the next parts of the story. But the cool thing is that the one little thing he had because of what his father did when he did finally see his father, we'll say this again later, but his father said, "Son, you better listen to that preacher man." That was the last thing his daddy said to him. And he always held on to that. So he found his way going. The one place that he welcomed him into town was the church. So he would go to the church services and met that preacher that was there with his daddy, and that preacher would make sure that they had the things they needed for that boy to get by. But that preacher himself had his own little girl. And so they were about the same age, and then they grew up in that town and years, and every time their church door was open, that boy'd be there, or he'd be at the stable. And he became reliable, and he learned everything, and he worked hard, and he built his own little reputation of being a solid dude in spite of the past he came from. And so we got this. This is where we're at with this story. You know, we'll get into that more of the development, but this is where it changes. I mean, and you know, the whole dream isn't lost.
Right.
You know, the whole dream isn't lost because we just said, you know, the original dream of this is they were on the farm with the family, having this beautiful scene with everything together. And yet everybody's gone from that, but yet this boy's enduring. And kindness and love and care has kept him sustained at least. And so the dream's not dead. It's just not happening. So
we'll make our way through that. Here's chapter 4.
Yes.
And Whiskey and Laudanum.
Whiskey and Laudanum. And so ends O.B. Hardman's part in this here tale. Condemned, but redeemed. Less than 40 years in this world, but eternity with the Lord. Unfortunately, all that left for Mary Elizabeth was a deep, paralyzing sadness and disconnect, stuck in a frontier town with a child, and no means to pay for food and rent. Her only option was to become available for entertainment, to pay her room and board. The loss of a child, a husband, and a home, the humiliation and the shame she felt for what she had to do to survive. Poor Mary lost her way and found herself in a pit with no way out. No way out but an undignified end. Poor Mary Elizabeth. Broken mind and a broken soul. May God have mercy upon her. Well, it didn't happen fast. It wasn't of her making. All these things that tore her down. Just too much sorrow for a mind that's breaking. Whiskey and laudanum put her in the ground. Such a wicked life, cutting short the lives of good ladies and men.